Welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, you are going to learn how to check whether a word is a palindrome or not. Then the question is, what is a palindrome? A palindrome is a word or phrase or a sentence that reads the same when it is reversed. For example, the word madam is still the same if we reverse it. And the phrase nurses run is the same thing when we reverse it. And another example is a man, a plan, a cana, Panama. If you reverse it, you still have the same thing, and that is what is called palindrome. So how do we think about it when we want to check whether a word is palindrome? This is how we do it. Normally, we subconsciously divide it into two. We have left, and we have right. So, and we have a word at the center, right? We have, let's say, C at the center. So when we want to now check for palindrome, this is how we think about it. Let's say we have madam. So we first pick the first word, right, at the beginning. So that is to the left, right? And we pick the word M, right? And we pick another word from the right, which is M. We put it here. It means both of them are M's. So that means the word is possible to be a palindrome because the first by the left and the first by the right are the same thing. Then we pick the second character from the left, which is A, and we put it here, right? And we also check the second character from the right, which is also A, right? If they are the same thing, it means that it is likely for the word to be a palindrome also. But if they are not the same thing, it means the word is not a palindrome. By the time we get to the center, this is the one that is at the center, then we put it at the center. Then, boom, 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 we have what? We have a palindrome. So that is how we think about it when we are thinking about palindrome. And another way to think about it, we have a palindrome, then we read it from the end, right? We reverse it, then we check whether the original one and the reversed one are the same thing. That is another way to think about palindrome. After you understand that, the next thing to do is to convert it to code. But before we do that, what I want us to know is that when we have phrases, the thinking become a bit different, like nurses, right? Run. If you check from here, we have, let's use this example I used above here, and you will see that which one is at the center, it is E. So let's put it here. E is at the center, and the one by the left, which is N, the first by the right is also N. Here we put it here. So the second by the left is also U, and we put it here. The second by the right is also U, and we put it here. The third by the left is R, and we put it here. The third by the right is also R, we put it here. And the fourth by the left is S, and we put it here. If you think about it, I have omitted something, so let's go back again. Let's remove the S. Now, if you want to check the fourth, right, this one will be S, and by the time we want to check that this one, this space is a character in programming, but to human being it is empty, right? The way we think about it. But to a computer, this space is something, and the space will be here. Then it will not be correct. But to human being, it reads the same to us when we reverse it. Then can we say it is not a palindrome? No, it's a palindrome because it reads the same when we reverse it. The space doesn't matter when we read it as human being, and that is what we are going to code into our computer because that is what we call palindrome in real world. So how do we now go about that? The best thing we have to do is to remove this space before we do the comparison. So we are going to do everything like that. It's not just the space. There are some other characters that may affect it. We remove them, then we compare the other things. So that is what we are going to do. Let's get started. We have a function is palindrome, and it takes text. The first thing is to write, let's say, const non-alphanumeric character is equals to regular expression. We just write it like this. We write correct, and we write capital letter A to Z, and this one ends it, and we put G. So what is the meaning of this regular expression? It's a regular expression to match non-alphanumeric character, that is, things that are not an alphabet or a number. If they are not capital letter or small letter or a number, then we are going to remove them. So the correct matches the first position, so it starts from the beginning. We check for non-alphanumeric character from the beginning, and this G means that we are checking for all instances of alphanumeric. This square braces means that we have a character class. That is, it can be one of this. It can be just a capital letter or a small letter or things like that. It can be one of this. So that is how a character class is used in regular expression. And this G means that we are looking for all instances of it in the text. So it means global match. So we are matching every instance of it, every occurrence of it, and that is what that one means. After we are able to pick out the non-alphanumeric character in a text, that is, the characters that are not either text or number, so we want to pick them, match all of them. Now let's actually do the matching. So we do text is now equals to text dot to lowercase. Why do we do to lowercase? It means that we want to be certain that the text is in lowercase, because JavaScript is case sensitive. And if it is case sensitive, if you compare small letter and capital letter, then it will throw something you don't expect, like false and things like that. And that is why we convert everything to small letter first. And after that, the next thing we want to do is to replace the non-alphanumeric character from the text, and we just do replace, and we pass non-alphanumeric character, and we pass this. So it means that we are replacing it with nothing. So we remove all the non-alphanumeric characters, like space, hyphen, underscore, and some of them like that, so that we'll be sure we are dealing with numbers and alphabet. That is it. We have done that. Then let's check the length of this text. So we just do const text length, that is the total number of characters we have in the text. Text length is equals to text.length minus 1. So we pick the total size, because JavaScript starts from 0, counting from 0. That's why we subtract 1 from it. Now let's start checking with for loop, because for loop will repeat the operation like I did before. I was putting to the left, putting to the right, comparing them. Then we will use for loop to do the repetition, because when I was grouping madam into left and right, I was repeating the action. Pick the first one by the left, pick the first one by the right. That was what I was doing. Then we will use for loop to do that, because the action has to be repeated. So let's use for loop. So for loop, we now do index. We now do let index equals to 0. We start from 0, and index less than text length divided by 2. So if that happens, then index plus plus. The meaning of this is that we start the iteration from 0, and once index is less than text length, when we divide it by 2, then we'll be adding plus plus to the index. So it will be increasing by 1 so that the action will continue. Why do we have to divide it by 2? Why? The reason is that, we are comparing two sides at a time. We are not just comparing one side, right? So the increment, our operation, we are doing two operations at a time. We pick a character from the beginning, right? And we pick a character at the end at the same time. So in order to make sure that the operation is not more than necessary, we are dividing it by 2 because we carry out two operations at the same time. So we divide it by 2 so that we reduce the length. So that is why we are reducing the length by 2. Let's check with if statement. If text index is not equal to text length minus index. So what is the meaning of this? This one picks the first item. It picks the first item or the first character in the text. And we are checking it if it is not equal to the last character. So now let's explain this. The first iteration, this one will be 0. Then it will pick the first character. And this one length, right? And this one is 0. We put this one here to iterate so that it will be reducing the length, and this one will also be increasing, right? So by the second iteration, this one will be 1 and this one will be 1. Then 1 will be subtracted. Then it will bring this second by the end of the text, like I have explained before. That is how to simulate what I explained earlier on, that we are putting to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right. So this one is speaking from the end, and this one is speaking from the beginning. So that is it. And what will happen if they are not equal? The first time I talked about madam, so the M and M must be equal. If they are equal, it is possible for the word to be a palindrome. But if they are not equal, then it is not a palindrome. We are going to log that. Let's just do console.log. It is not a palindrome, right? So, and let's return false so that it will stop. If all of them are equal, then here we return. Let's console.log before we return. Console.log. It is palindrome, and we return true like that. Now let's test whether it is working or not. Now it is time to check whether what we have been doing is working or not. So let's check it and see whether it works or not. We will now do is palindrome, and we pass a text to it. Here let's pass pop. Let's start with that simple one. We have saved it. Let's check it whether it's going to work or not. Let's check it. Boom! Hooray! Yes. It works. Can you see that? It is palindrome. And now let's check for other things whether it is palindrome or not. Let's check for madam. Right now, yes, it works. It is palindrome. Let's check what is not a palindrome. Mother is not a palindrome because the beginning A and M, they are not the same thing. All right, so that's not a palindrome. Let's check whether it works. Will it work? Okay, let's check. Boom! Yes, it is not a palindrome. Wow, it works. Can you see that? It works. It's not a palindrome. Let's check for other things. Now let's check for phrase. Nurses run. It is clear. Is it going to work? Okay. Boom! Yes, It works. Can you see that? It works. It works. It works. Can you see that? So let's check for a word that is longer than that. A man. Let's put something so that we'll know whether it will remove that one too. A plan. A canal. Panama. Let's see if it's going to work. I'm scared. Boom! Yes, it works. Works. It works. Okay, that's fine. Then let's check for another thing. Let's twist it. Maybe it will work. Let's put hyphen, and I want us to tweak it after the N. Let's put another hyphen. I want to tweak it so that I'll be sure it works in any way. Okay. Boom! It still works. That is it. It works. Now, for the last time. Okay, now let me check this, whether this one will work. You see that? Okay, let me check if this one will work. Boom! It's still working. It's still working. It's still working. Yeah, it's working. Okay. Now, what else can I do? After that, let me just re-explain it, because repetition aids retention. What we do here, you know that we use this one to get something like symbol representation of non-alphanumeric character. That is, characters that are not alphabets or numbers. So, and in this case, we want to change what is in the text. We want to reassign the text here, and we are reassigning it with something like this. So the text itself, we change it to lowercase, right? And we replace all the non-character it might have. We replace them with, without any space. We just remove them. And after that, we get the length, the total number of characters in the text itself. Then we create a loop. So we use the loop to increment our operation. As I explained before, we are dividing the length by 2 because our operation, we are checking for 2 things at a time. If we are checking for 2 things at a time, that is, those 2 things are out of the length. If the length is 10, then we check the first and we check the last. So what we need are just 8 again. We divide the length by 2. That actually shows us that our comparison will be half of the total length, right? Because we are comparing 2 things at the same time. So the comparison has to be what? Half of the total length. For example, you have 10 as the length. Let's say 10 is the length. If you compare the left and the right, the total comparison is going to be half of that thing. So that is why we are dividing it by 2. The first iteration will be 10 divided by 2, it will be 5. After that, second iteration, 8 divided by 2, right? It will be 4. That is what we are doing to actually do the right calculation. Now, when we get there, let's say this one is now 0, first iteration. This one will pick the first character, and now this one will now do total length, right? So if the total character is like 10, we will remove 0 from it and it will pick the last one. Second iteration, this one will be 1 and it will pick the second by the beginning, and this one we now subtract 1 from this and then pick the second to the last, right? That's it. And it will continue like that until we are certain that all of them are the same thing. So this one is only checking for the number of iteration if the index is now less than when we divide the total length by 2, then iteration will continue. But once it is maybe greater or equals to when we divide the text length by 2, then we want to stop the operation, because normally by calculation, if you have madam, right, and you are comparing this one and this one, right, that is 1, this one and this one, that is 2, right? So by the time you do that, you divide this one by 2, right? So you don't need to compare the total length, right? So you don't need to compare the total length. Like the total length will be 4 when we subtract 1 from it, right? So Then you divide it by 2, then it will be 2. So our iteration is supposed to be 2. Now let's check it. A, and that's all. 2. Fine. And that is exactly what we are doing with that, and that is what that one means. So we don't want to do unnecessary iteration. So that is why we do that. Okay. So it works. For the last time, let's check whether it's going to work. Let's check for something else. So what word can I remember? Okay, let me just use anything. A text. Let's just do na and na and. So that one should work. And let's check it out if it works or not. Boom! Yes, it works. And this is the end of this tutorial. I will see you in another tutorial. Don't forget, a true Roman never surrender. Bye for now.
Hey! Have you been struggling to learn and build projects with JavaScript? Oh no, you too can code. People like you have been struggling to understand and build projects with JavaScript because you have been learning with the wrong resources that make everything so difficult to learn. And there is nobody to be there for you anytime you are stuck. That is why I have put together my long experience of working with JavaScript, and I also took a year of my life to provide solutions to the problem beginners always face in learning and building projects with JavaScript. Now you can learn with a tested and trusted program that makes use of simple examples and amazing illustrations that make everything so easy to learn. And my team and I will always guide you, mentor you, and always be there for you anytime you are stuck. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in this post right now to start learning JavaScript the easy way. I will teach you JavaScript to be unstoppable. See you soon.